Rants from a Crazy Gen Xer. My name's Natalie. I'm your Crazy Gen Xer. And what I want to talk about today, I guess, for a little bit here, is um, the hostage release. Okay? Um, all of these hostages that were taken, a lot of them from the West Bank, after, you know, people broke out of the concentration camp that is called Gaza and attacked their um, brutal occupiers that have been holding them in the concentration camp. Um, but I want to talk about back in February of this year, a 15-year-old U.S. citizen who was out visiting family in the West Bank was kidnapped at like 3:30 in the morning. He was 15 years old. His name is Mohammed Ibrahim. And he's now 16. We're in October. This was February. That's a long time. He is still being held in prison there. And and I'm surprised that Donnie the Holocaust, president of war, hasn't negotiated the release of this poor kid. Okay? I, I know that a lot of people, okay, I know that Mehdi Hassad, I think that's his last name, how you pronounce it. I don't know. I mean, I'm dyslexic, so a lot of things are a little bit on the rougher end with names, especially for me. Anyways, he did a whole show on it, okay? And it wasn't just, the father of Muhammad here. It was a few other people who who Israel murdered their children. Let's just be very clear. He had them on there. And the truth of the matter is that poor little Muhammad, who is 16 years old, is being starved. Okay, he's not being properly fed. He has skin infections already. He's already got skin infections that need medical attention that he's not receiving while he is being held captive by the Israeli military. Okay, and yeah, a nuclear military army is holding a 16-year-old U.S. child. Okay, and the U.S. government is doing nothing to bring this child home. To let that part sink in on this, okay? But kids have already died in this prison that he is being held in. Okay, and let's talk about some of the torture techniques that the Israeli people use. Okay, they throw people naked into a cold cell, and every hour go in there and throw ice cold buckets of water at the people. So they basically freeze to death. And one of the torture places that did it here in Guantanamo, well, not here, in Cuba, which is so weird. I mean, Cuba has this strained relationship with the U.S. I mean, I would call Russia and say, "Listen, Russia, you want to get these people out of my town and fucking close down this torture chamber? They've annexed my land for." Because that's exactly what the U.S. has done. They annexed the land that Guantanamo Bay is on. And are torturing people. But people have died of hypothermia from that. And Israelis use this technique on children as well as adults. Okay, so let's just be clear on what the Israeli people are and how Donnie the Holocauster, he likes to sit there and say, well, who keeps dead bodies? Well, the Israelis keep dead bodies. They have got dead Palestinian bodies that they have held for decades because they're cruel. These people are not good people, and I'm just so irritated that nobody in our government has made this demand that U.S. citizens that are being held by the Israeli military need to be released. It should have been part of the hostage exchange. This poor little Mohammed kid should have been released in this first wave of hostage exchange. He is a child, okay? And he is a U.S. citizen who is a child. You know, we sit there and we advocate for the release of all of our people all over the world. And sometimes they get released, sometimes they don't. I mean, depending on, you know, how much media attention they get and what kind of crimes they commit. And so, yeah, this kid needs to be released, and I'm a little bit irritated that he hasn't been released, and I'm a little bit irritated that our government isn't demanding the release of them. I mean, we literally have spent over $70 billion in a 2-year period of time defending this terrorist nation who kidnaps and murders U.S. citizens. And this is something that we should all be very leery of. I mean, we already know our government, first of all, doesn't see us as human, okay? They think it's funny that they have people fighting each other over, being Democrat or Republican, conservative, and liberal. They literally have people fighting each other to the death over here in the United States, okay? And they do it by design. They love it when we fight each other because then they get to stay in power. They never have to do anything, okay? They just sit there and say, your neighbor is your enemy and you should kill them. And this is, I mean, they don't come out and say that literally, but they do say that they're your enemy. If you read online, like comments like, Democrats are the enemy, Republicans are the enemy, neither one of them are your enemy. Your enemy is the people at the top. Your enemy is the rich fucking donors, okay? Your enemy, like Mariel Atkinson, you know, and people sitting there saying that, whatever, God, whatever that Democrat guy is who keeps, that war machine keeps going on him. I can't even remember his name. That's how irrelevant the rich people are to me as a person. I don't even remember half of their names, but all of them, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it is Donnie the Holocauster, okay, Marco Rubio, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, you know, fucking robot Mitch McConnell who keeps deking out, okay? First of all, our Congress shouldn't have anybody in it over the age of 65. It should be a mandatory retirement age. We cannot keep having people who die in office. This is the reality. Die of old age in office. Dianne Feinstein was fucking dementia. Okay? She had dementia. And they kept her in office. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Irregardless of that bullshit, okay? But all of these people are our enemies. They are not doing anything for us. They're the ones that keep us broke. They're the ones who make our healthcare costs so expensive. They're the ones who are making it so our elderly can't get their heart medication, their diabetes medication. And people's like, oh, well, it's for, no, your diabetes medication isn't just for the fat people, okay? There are a lot of people who are diabetic, who are born diabetic. Well, not, I don't know about born diabetic, but they became diabetic in their early ages. It's generally before 10 years old, okay? Before puberty comes in, it does generally happen before that, and these kids become diabetic. Okay, they probably couldn't process sugar through their whole life, but it didn't actually present a problem until they are a few years older. It's generally around 5, 6 years old. It's before 10. Either way, it doesn't matter. But they need medication, and people need their heart medication, and they need medication to help their brain function, or their keep their blood pressure in check, or whatever the hell it is. I mean, so many problems happen to people as we age. Okay, a lot of things happen, but they make it so expensive. Elderly people literally make the choice between eating and medication. And this isn't new, okay? Um, it really isn't new. This is something that has been going on since I was a kid. My grandpa. Well, my grandma on my mother's side um, was okay. She did have 2 pensions, though. 2, not 1, but 2, and she got Social Security. And she carried health insurance from the hospital, because one of the places she retired from was a hospital, and part of the pension program for that was a health insurance premium, a health insurance that carried with her. And so she had Medicare, and she had Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance that she was able to use together to cover all of her healthcare needs. Okay. And then my grandma Ashton, she didn't really have any either, because she got her healthcare under veterans healthcare from my grandfather. So she was given that healthcare. And she was also given survivor benefits from my grandfather, which provided her with all the money that she needed to pay for her, however she was living. And that carried on through when she went to the nursing home, and it paid for the nursing home. Granted, when you go to a nursing home, all of your worldly possessions are taken from you. You don't end up with any type of housing. You can live to your kids. You don't end up with anything in your bank account. You don't end up with nothing. Anything of value they take, which is fine. I mean, for the most part, the reality is that your kids, and this has been the truth between a lot of things, your kids are grown. They don't need your house. They don't need, they're taking care of all their own stuff. And that is true about that. But so this has been true for the centuries. But here we are, giving all of our money to this foreign nation, and this foreign nation is murdering U.S. citizens. And the way that they talk about us is disgusting. I mean, they sit there and they say, well, the Arabs say death to America. Well, some of them probably do, okay? If I was being bombed by, bombs that say made in the USA, I'd be angry at the fucking USA too. Okay, can you imagine if we were being bombed over here in the United States by bombs that said made in Afghanistan? I think that we would, hate Afghanistan. Or made in China, we would hate Chinese. Made in Russia, we would hate them. I mean, these are things that we would definitely hate if that was our lifestyle. I can't. I mean, I am privileged because I was born here in the United States, and it happens to be the United States right now is on top of the food chain. Granted, we are sliding, and China is coming up. There's a lot of things with that coming through the roof right now, especially with the trade war stuff. China put itself in a good position. I've said it from the beginning of the Holocaust here, where Israelis were trying to kill off every single Palestinian around the world. They even come here to the U.S. and try to kill Palestinians here. The problem is they can't tell the difference between an Israeli and a Palestinian. So, they attack Israelis and then they want to blame it on somebody else. That's how these people are. But I digress on that. That's whatever it is. But I do want people to remember Mohammed Ibrahim. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I freaking don't even care how you really pronounce it. I'm going to put his picture up here so you can see it. And I do want people to know that, we should advocate for this child's release. Okay? He is a U.S. citizen child. He should not be held in an Israeli torture chamber. Again, rants from a crazy Gen Xer. My name's Natalie, and I am your crazy Gen Xer.